Hello, my name is Molly. Welcome to my channel. I'd like to take a moment and talk about the idea of a truth or a fact. Um, this comes up, I think, a lot, especially as we start talking about spiritual matters, certainly when we talk about religion. So I am just going to talk about my interpretation of this. Again, it's really on the nose to say this is my idea of what a truth or a fact is. So it was kind of, I kind of see this as everyone is entitled to their truth and their facts. So that can be really confusing when the idea of this is that there is a truth and there are facts. This can obviously cause a lot of trouble. It's caused wars. So if you are willing to kind of delve into this with me a moment, the idea, quite frankly, is that each person is going to have their own truth. All right. That truth is often based on our experiences in our life, because that's kind of how we're going to back up our truth, right? Well, this is the truth because of what I've experienced or what I've been taught or what I was told. You know, however you get to your truth, that's where it gets very confusing, right? Especially when people are taught, well, this is the only way, and if you don't believe in this, then you're wrong, or it can get, a little more destructive than that, right? So let's just take a moment and say, okay, if your truth is you have to work hard for money, right? Money is scarce. It's very difficult you have to work really hard. Maybe you have to work your whole life. You have to be very careful savings and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that person perhaps has an entire life of having that experience. Maybe they have really tough things happen in they could have house calamity or illness. There's so many things, right? So things have happened in this person's life and they believe that you really have to work hard. They work hard at their job and they make a decent salary, and it takes them to a certain place in their life. And, that's their belief, right? They're going to teach this to their children probably, right? You got to work really hard, and this is how it is. Now there could be another person that has just everything they've done. They've just made a fortune. They haven't even worked very hard, right? They just kind of came up with ideas and they made a fortune and they did this and oh my gosh, that was a success. And whatever the case may be, maybe to them, money is just incredibly abundant, right? And you don't have to work hard. Maybe this person came up with one idea and they never worked another day in their life and they've just had fun and played and bought islands and I don't know. So for them, right, their truth based on their experiences is that money is easy to come by, Same thing with relationships. I'm going to give one more. If you've had your heart broken, if you've been in really, really bad relationships again and again and again and again, and, your truth would be probably somewhere around love is hard to come by or relationships are tough. The grass isn't greener, marriage or relationships are hard. You have to work hard. There's a million sayings over in that area, right? I've heard probably all of them. It's kind of how I was raised. And then perhaps there's someone over here that met their just soulmate, their true partner at 6 years old. And they just have lived this amazingly beautiful, romantic, loving experience. And they just think, love is just, it's amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And why are people always writing these sad love songs? Because their experience is just so beautiful. So I think that there is a moment for all of us to sit back and say, that's really interesting that even though something really feels like a truth, that this is how it is, there's so many people that really and truly do not see it that way, right? I would even argue that each of us is going to have our specific truths and beliefs and facts, right? And I know that can rustle some feathers in the scientific community, but I would argue even then, look at what it takes to prove a scientific fact and then look at how they get they get changed. This is not my area, by the way, but it's kind of how I'm seeing it, that even these things that we believe in as fact, right? Laws change, right? Yes, it takes a lot of work, but they change. And then we look and we say, oh my gosh, how could those people have thought that that was right and that was the law? And then, again, things change, things evolve, even the things that aren't supposed to, right? They're supposed to be the truth and the fact. So I'm going to actually kind of carry this over into now the spiritual community and the spiritual idea. So with these truths, don't forget that when you're talking to people and you're listening to people online, or you're reading, or you are having certain experiences, I think that part of this journey and part of our lesson is to constantly change and evolve and learn. So I feel like every time I get my bearings in something and I go, oh my gosh, okay, I finally see it. I finally understand this idea that was really outside of my norm. Things kind of tip for me. I feel like, things shift quickly, and that I think is actually very normal. So please be wary of that as you're reading things and you're learning things. I think as a rule, we kind of get to a point where we can understand something, right? And we feel like we get it. And then that gives us the opportunity to go further, right? And that further step may take everything we've learned and make it not true for us anymore, as true as it was in that moment. I hope that made sense. So we're kind of constantly being, shown a ceiling, if you will, and then the moment that we realize that ceiling isn't the top of the earth, right? It's not the limit. As soon as we can pop out of there, it's almost like you get this whole new experience, and then you have another level that you're able to pop through each time. So I think that this is probably a very healthy idea for most of us, especially when we believe that we know the right way or we know the actual truth. We can very often fall into judgment, which is a very sticky place to be in when we're looking at other people and saying, oh, they don't really know, they don't really understand it. I know better, or, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. I think that there's a healthy touch of just saying everyone is entitled to their experience, even if you fundamentally disagree with it. And I know that can trigger people, but I believe that there is truth to that we are each entitled to learn and grow, and perhaps that person's lesson is a different lesson than what you need for your growth and your experience, but that doesn't make it any less valid or any less truthful. So I think this is where oftentimes we can kind of go into our heart, if you will, have compassion, not only for ourselves, because when you get really upset about something, or you feel like things are not being correct or right or truthful, that can be really difficult too. That can be very uncomfortable. So that's a really healthy time to kind of look and say, why is this so important to me, and why is this person upsetting me so badly by their actions, and or why is it upsetting me to have my truth, right, challenged? I don't know, whatever the case may be. But these certainly can be difficult conversations. They can be difficult, uncomfortable moments. But there's nothing that you can't figure out, that you can't feel through, and that you can't learn and grow from, which is kind of the amazing part, even in the challenging times, that these really are situations that are presented to us for us to get something out of. And only you know what you're meant to get out of that. I do think that oftentimes when we, and sometimes that comes in layers, right? Like you may get this much out of it then, and that feels like, oh, I figured this out, I've got it. And then it oftentimes will come back around and you're like, I thought I already dealt with this. Why am I dealing with this again? But there's something else that you are meant to get from it. So it's certainly not a race. We are each on our own paths in our own way. So I just thought that taking a moment and having a conversation about what the truth is, maybe would help some people just have a little more compassion for themselves and for others around them, so that even when you're listening to people that are, channeling information or telling you this is how it is, and it doesn't really feel right to you, and a lot of times I'll listen to things and maybe it just doesn't feel right in that moment, and then sometimes I'll switch a perception of something completely, and then that maybe makes a lot of sense, or maybe it never will, right? So be open to hearing things, because I think often that's where we even have the opportunity to shift a perception or our viewpoints. And certainly beliefs, those are a tricky thing. They can be tricky to shift, but that's where tremendous growth can come from. So if you have any questions, please comment below. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel. If you have anything that you'd like me to talk about, please comment below. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.